secret weapon that can destroy megacities in a split second. Have you ever heard of a weapon that can destroy a megacity in a split second? It may sound like something out of a science fiction movie, but the reality is that such a weapon exists. Known as the Rods of God or kinetic bombardment, this weapon is capable of unleashing devastating destruction with pinpoint accuracy. In this video, we will explore the history and technology behind this secret weapon, the potential consequences of its use, and the ethical implications of its development and deployment. Join us as we delve into the world of kinetic bombardment and its potential to change the face of modern warfare. Imagine a weapon that could destroy a megacity in a split second, a weapon that could hit its target with the force of a nuclear bomb without radiation. Such a weapon exists, and it's called the Rod of Gods. The idea of rods from God is not new, and it has been around for decades, but technology has only recently caught up with the concept. In this video, we'll explain the science behind this powerful weapon and how it could be used to destroy cities in seconds. Please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for more videos before we proceed. Click the bell icon to receive notifications of new videos. Have you already done this? Let's start. In the 1980s, a kinetic swarm system was proposed as a potential component of Strategic Defense Initiative, codenamed Brilliant Pebbles at the time. Project Thor was an idea for a weapon system that would launch telephone pole-sized tungsten kinetic projectiles from Earth's orbit to damage targets on the ground. Jerry Pournelle developed the concept in the 1950s while working in operations research at Boeing before becoming a science fiction writer. A system called hypervelocity rod bundles was described in a 2003 United States Air Force report as 20 feet long, 1 foot diameter tungsten rods that are satellite controlled and have global strike capability with impact speeds of Mach 10. The bomb would naturally have high kinetic energy because it moves at orbital velocities around 8 kilometers per second in orbit and 3 kilometers per second. At impact, the rod would lose most of its velocity as it re-entered Earth's atmosphere, but the remaining energy would cause significant damage. Some systems have been claimed to have the yield of a small tactical nuclear bomb. These designs are intended to be bunker busters. The bunker buster, as the name implies, is powerful enough to destroy a nuclear bunker. With 6 to 8 satellites in orbit, a target could be hit in 12 to 15 minutes, less than half the time it takes an ICBM and without the launch warning. A system of this type could also be outfitted with sensors to detect incoming anti-ballistic missile threats and relatively light protective measures to counter them. For example, hit-to-kill missiles or megawatt-class chemical lasers. The time between deorbit and impact would be only a few minutes, and the system would have a global range depending on the orbits and positions within the orbits. There would be no need for missiles, aircraft, or other vehicles to be deployed. A 6.1 by 0.3 meter tungsten cylinder impacting at Mach 10 has kinetic energy equivalent to approximately 11.5 tons of TNT, in the case of the system mentioned in the 2003 Air Force report above. Because the mass of such a cylinder exceeds 9 short tons, its practical applications are limited to situations where its other characteristics provide a clear and decisive advantage. A conventional bomb or warhead of comparable weight to the tungsten rod, delivered by conventional means, provides the comparable destructive capability and is far more practical and cost-effective. The weapon would be extremely difficult to defend against. It has an extremely fast closing velocity and a very small radar cross-section. It is difficult to detect launch. Any infrared launch signature takes place in orbit with no fixed position. The magnitude of the infrared launch signature is also much lower than that of a ballistic missile launch. The system would also have to deal with atmospheric heating from re-entry, which could melt the weapon's non-tungsten components. The phrase "rods from God" also applies to the same concept. According to an Air Force report, they are known as hypervelocity rod bundles. What are the Rods of God? The Rods of God are essentially large tungsten rods that are dropped from space to hit a target on Earth. They are also known as kinetic energy weapons, KEWS, or kinetic bombardment. These rods are around 20 feet long and 1 foot in diameter, and they are made of tungsten because of their high melting point and density. These rods can travel at a speed of Mach 10 or higher, which means they can hit their target with a force of 11 tons of TNT. or the equivalent of a small nuclear bomb. How do they work? The rods of God works on a simple principle of physics. When an object is dropped from space, it gains potential energy due to its altitude. As it falls towards the Earth, this potential energy is converted into kinetic energy, which is the energy of motion. The speed of the object increases as it gets closer to the ground, and the kinetic energy increases as a result. By the time the object hits the ground, it has accumulated a massive amount of kinetic energy, which is released upon impact. The rods of God uses this principle to deliver a devastating blow to their target. When the rods are dropped from space, they reach a velocity of over 10 times the speed of the sound due to the Earth's gravity. This speed, combined with the rod's massive weight, results in a force that is equivalent to a nuclear bomb. The rods hit their target with a precision that is unmatched by any other weapon, and they can penetrate deep into the ground or destroy buildings and structures. Advantages of the rods of God. The rods of God has several advantages over other weapons. First, they don't produce any radiation, which means they can be used in areas where the use of nuclear weapons is not feasible. Second, they are very difficult to detect, and they are dropped from space and can be launched from a great distance away from the target. Third, they can be deployed quickly and with minimal warning, which makes them an ideal weapon for surprise attacks. Fourth, they can be used to destroy underground bunkers or secret underground sites that are difficult to access using conventional weapons. Disadvantages of the rods of God. While the rods of God have many advantages, they also have some disadvantages. First, they require a large amount of energy to be launched into space, which makes them expensive to develop and deploy. Second, they are not reusable, which means that each rod has to be replaced after it is used. Fourth, they are not suitable for use in populated areas, as the destruction caused by the rods can lead to significant civilian casualties. Current status of the rods of God. The rods of God is not yet in use, but several countries, including the United States, have been researching and developing this technology for decades. The United States Air Force has been studying the concept since the 1950s, and it is believed that they have already developed the technology to launch the rods into space. However, the exact status of this technology is classified, and it is not known whether the rods have been deployed or not. The future of the rods of God. The rods of God represent a new era in military technology, and their potential impact on warfare is significant. While their use is not yet widespread, it is believed that they could become a common weapon in the future. As countries continue to develop and deploy this technology, the risks associated with their use will increase. The use of rods of God in warfare could lead to massive destruction and significant loss of life. The rods of God is a powerful weapon that could change the face of warfare. While they have not yet been deployed, the potential impact on military strategy is significant. As countries continue to develop and deploy this technology, the risks associated with their use will increase. The rods of God represent a new era in military technology, and their use will undoubtedly have a significant consequence for the future of warfare. It is up to the world's leaders to decide how this technology should be used and whether it is worth the risk. Today's video has come to an end. Remember to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel to view more content. Remember to click the bell symbol to receive notifications when new videos are posted. I will leave you with this and hope to see you in the